Okay, welcome to, oh my goodness, another exciting episode of AniMirror podcast with Dr. Melissa Sell and myself, and welcoming in near and dear to my heart, the Dachshunds, the fierce, small, mighty little god dogs who bring us everything, who were the birth of this idea to begin with, and welcoming in Norman's mom, Angel. No pun intended. Yes, it is intended. Angel is here to eliminate whether we are facing our angel selves or our little devil selves, and we are talking about, oh my God, bite conflicts, attack conflicts, terror, territorial anger, fear, all of it whipped in around together, swirl it in the mix, and potentially we have a constellation. So welcoming Angel here, and just a tiny little, like everyone who's might be listening, who's obsessed with dachshunds, they're fierce and mighty, their territorial aspect, the Jekyll and Hyde aspect. I am a mom of 4 dachshunds. This is kind of how the whole concept even birthed through me long ago, not AniMirror, but just that animals are mirroring me somehow. And then 3 years ago, I met Angel, and we started talking about, of course, dachshunds and what was Norman potentially mirroring. And at the time, we were just talking about, well, this is what he's doing, and then I started to ask questions, and through that 3 years, weaving in all the stories, then I had my own attack of a dachshund, witnessing it outside of me, witnessing Phoenix attack Colleen. And I think we've talked about it somewhere, not on the podcast, maybe in the course module. So today, welcome back to Full Circle. You can't hear me. Oh, okay. Angel can't hear. Hold on one sec. All right. Well, before we take the mic over to you, just welcoming in all the docs and parents, all the biology parents who are welcome to AniMirror for the first time, perhaps, who want to dive into what is my dog, my pet, my animal, the rescues that the volunteer center are mirroring me, from the GNM, GHK biology standpoint, bridging the gap to what is my animal mirroring? Could I possibly be witnessing myself in my animal? And if I can help my animal resolve or understand a little bit more about what's happening, can I resolve that in them and me? That is the premise of AniMirror always, and we're always weaving in the most unique AniMirrors out there. So Angel, I know you said, can you hear yet, Angel? No. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me see if I can pause for one second. Okay. So technical, not really technical, just citing overall, can we face this? Okay. So as we were sort of setting up for this a week or so ago, this lesson came to me, and it's from A Course in Miracles. We weave in everything. So it's a perfect setup for what Norman and Phoenix have presented, which is I must attack, I must defend. And the lesson is in my defenselessness lies my safety, my salvation. So the question of why am I defending at all? So we'll weave that in. What do I need to defend against? Why do dogs resource guard? So Angel, do you want to start with how this came to be? What have you been witnessing? What is he actually resource guarding? Is it just food? Is it people? Is it, what's your experience to start off?
Let's see. So when we met Norman, he is now 5. We adopted him about 4 months old. And he was a stray. And so he just had this fun, quirky little personality. He was right away really sensitive if you were near his toys. And so it wasn't about food so much. It was just more about his like little personal toys and things. And at first it was just sweet little, cute little grunts of like, this is my boundary. And that was fun and playful and cute. But I did notice that if you were to try to take something that he wasn't supposed to have, that's really when it came. So it flipped from toys to food. And it's progressively getting worse. It's just a little bit stronger and primarily towards me. So that's what I've really noticed in a nutshell.
Okay. So, all right. So let's weave in, what does this, from a biology standpoint, we'll send it over to you. What would the attack or bite, because he has bitten, right?
It's only been a couple of times, and that's usually now, even with, well, I'm trying to remember specific instances. Yes, there's been food involved. So if I'm in the kitchen near his food bowl and I'm at that level of height, if I'm the only one that bends towards him, I'm the only one that gets to his same, yeah, like eye level. And if I'm near his food and there's something like broken glass, and he'll want to go and eat the food that has shattered, and I'm trying to protect him from the glass, he'll get snappy there. And it's almost right after he's had a really sweet, happy morning, or it really is a full shift between a really good or positive experience to then being really yeah, negative or guarding or territorial.
And what's the setup in the household? Just to kind of lay out the scene. How many people, what, kind of the dynamics, just mom,
Yeah,
dad.
so right now we have three in the house, and we're staying with my husband's mother, so my mother-in-law. And he's been a little bit chompy with her if it's a really high quality treat that he likes or some kind of food that he wants. Um, and then Kevin and I have had a boat for 4 years, a sailboat that, by the way, the offer just came in today to sell it. Amy knows it's been quite a journey. So that has also been in the mix, the moving, the changing of environments, and it being a very unstable, environment too. So right now we've been here for almost a year in this environment, and it's a small house, but it is a house with separate bedrooms, close quarters, um, and mostly it's me in the kitchen. Um, but yeah, it's so I don't know if the common denominator is always me. There has been a couple instances with somebody else, but it's usually around something that he really values.
That would make sense from the morsel perspective, from the territory perspective, that this is mine and I need to defend it. And so, yeah, we can go from having a lovely day, a lovely, play session, but as soon as we step on that track of, oh, this is mine, or oh, I'm experiencing that threat, I'm experiencing that encroachment into my territory, you might take my morsel, I need to defend. And so this would probably have been set up, in those 4 months before you adopted him, very possibly that there was some very important, morsel, mother morsel, is the first morsel. The first territory is always the mother. And so if we're not sure what happened in that dynamic, like my dog, for example, he's got a thing with floors, like certain floors, he freaks out about these floors. And we know that in his first 6 weeks of life, like something scary happened with the floor, so this is a track for him that we work through, look for the AniMirror, look for the story. But yeah, so when there's defense, when there's growling, it's like, oh, okay, so this apparently is your territory and I am representing some sort of threat. And so we start to, that's like the biological level, to unravel, okay, why particularly, is it every meal time? What is it about these like high value, the things that you have, registered as this is important to me, or you're trying to, protect me from something. So there's just like a more intense, hey, stay away from this. Why does that make me go, oh, now I really, really want it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's when because usually I just kind of give in, allow, I'm not so strict about it because I've tried the whole spectrum of being very strict, being very lax, and then having some consistency with training. So I've tried the gambit, and I think it definitely is in those moments when he knows I'm serious, like no, and being very strict and like I'm not letting you. That's when it gets like, oh, I'm gonna show my dominance. So it's definitely a dominance kind of fight as well. Rebellion.
What was your beginning like?
Yeah,
And
so
your
we were both adopted, Norman and I. So we share that in common. And so I was adopted around age 4 or 5, and my mother died, and so she was my main caretaker, I would say. But I had a very large family of women, so a lot of cousins and aunties around in Seoul, Korea. Oh, he wants the mic. No, he wants the treats because it's all about the food right now. And so there was definitely a parallel story about resources. I was told because my adopted family knew my biological family. So it was an arranged adoption. So I never spent time in an orphanage. Just it was really more process of paperwork. And so having that experience be told to me from different perspectives and different parental figures. It's more of a question, who took the resources. I had money of my own because I was modeling. My mother was in charge of the broadcasting for Korean TV. So she was basically a talent scout. So I did a lot of, do you want to tell the story? You could tell the story. I
Yes,
had a lot
perfect.
of I guess just I had my own money. And I was told from my adopted family that my birth family took it. And so there is this kind of story about the resources and that dominance and things like that. So, yeah, I've definitely seen that parallel as I've explored, like, how is this, how is this playing out in my life for sure? And I still feel that. So this August is going to be a trip that I'm planning to go to Korea for the first time since 1984 when I left, as close as I'm trying to get with, just opening up that Pandora's box. And there's something that's blocking me emotionally, logically, consciously, where I don't want to let them in. There's a trust issue. There's something and that's very much alive for me now and has been since 2019 when my birth family found me. He's heading towards the treat section. That's what he's doing.
That
He's
is
confirming.
fascinating. Wow. So yeah, so this so here you came with this chunk of resources, and apparently, we're told that this was taken from you. And so, okay, so why might this little guy be mirroring this resource guarding this important thing? So again, this is vital, so what your mother, although she passed, like, she did leave you with these resources, right? So that was kind of like the extension of her. This was this very important, right? That was a very important morsel. So it's like high value
Yeah.
that was needed. And why might I need to kind of bark and growl and bite away this, someone who might be threatening my resources, because that is a representation of mother. That's the representation of survival itself.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's fascinating because specifically in that culture at that time, there's a whole thing that's even unlocking within the Korean American adoptee community as a collective, as a diaspora. There's a lot literally this week, last month in the news about Korea giving up their children. And now they have a low birth rate and they're trying to get people to finally have more children. And it's like, well, you sent 250,000 of your children away. So there's this collective kind of awakening and anger and resource guarding happening even collectively, which I find fascinating. And it's also this needing to be saved, needing to go to America where the resources and abundance and opportunities were bigger. Like that, it wasn't important to my birth mom. And this is not saying in a negative or positive way. It's just the reality of the situation. She wasn't so concerned that I was staying within my family. It was more about who was going to give me the best opportunity. An opportunity in that time was money, right? So the resources, who's going to have, and it was a choice between two families. One that was my birth family, my origin family cousins living in America. And the other was somebody who had a higher position in the military. So he had higher availability of resources. So that, it keeps coming up in parallel in all these scenarios and right now unfolding, in the collective, which I find interesting.
This is magnificent. Even, and I do know a bit because we've been friends for 3 years, and I did not put together the track, even that nuance of the AniMirror track, which is the 4 and the 4. At 4 years old, you were adopted, and Norman was adopted around 4 months old. And that we do the nuances of the tracks and bringing it right front and center, as we say, but we didn't know at the time what we're calling in, and what
Today's
we're
4-4.
really, yeah. Oh, and there it is, everyone. with
Today's
Norman in
April
there.
4.
It's not April Fool's joke. It's real. It's legit. And the 4 is all about truth, walk the talk, foundation, a new platform to birth yourself on. The nuance of that track, and then the high value resource guarding from him, and the high value resource was how your family was chosen for you. And then, of course, the nuance of we just sold something that created resources for us, being the boat, a ship, a vessel that we lived on. And the nuances of course, weaving in territory, right? You've moved a lot. Territory keeps changing, and huge, massive shift. We could say, well, you were only 4 years old, but there's no such a thing as only, and we know consciousness is aware of everything that's happening. So even that, from the moment, from the get-go, almost front and center on a screen, make yourself a resource potentially, and someone knew, mom knew this was important. I'm certain, even if that wasn't the story at the time, knew I'm going to do the best I can for the storyline until I disappear. So we're going to put you front and center. And here we are, right? We're front and center using technology to face, using AniMirrors to face. So the territory becomes a part of it also. Resource guarding is usually about something, a morsel, or we could say territory in our case. So this dynamic of territory, resourcing, high value resources, not just anything, but the thing that we really want the most. How did it begin? With a mom, with our origin, and we in our own stories, it personally have our mom stories, and we have we've woven in the cow, Dr. Melissa's cow, who also left mom early for whatever circumstances were be, and all the things that can come of this, and our own perception of what that means for us. Okay, so you know these things. And so this is kind of like an advanced AniMirror podcast. We know these things. So what do we do when we know what we're facing? Even just the nuances that we trickle in. Okay, we're aware. Now we stepped on a track. And this track is one that is, we would say, hanging healing. We keep stepping on it. Well, how? Why? Well, because the resources are important. They're still of value because it means something. And in the Course in Miracles world, when we value something, we want it because we value it, and we will always get it. There's a law of the universe. What you desire, you will get, will attract in. So how do we move through this from any perspective? How do we go to a resolution? Let's start there. From these type of GNM conflicts. Why don't we bring that in first, and then we kind of weave in others? What do you think, Melissa, about moving through attack, moving through bite, moving through morsel, moving through territorial, with all the things still kind of going on?
Well, that's the thing, is the conflict is resolved when it can't happen again, or when I can laugh about it. So that's like, from that practical biological perspective, if the threat still exists, then the reaction, the response is still necessary. And so it's like, as long as this threat is still present, it's biologically beneficial for there to be the guarding, the growling, the defense mechanism. And so the solution is, what's going to make this irrelevant? What is it that's going to make this so that it feels like it happened to somebody else, that it's no longer, because you even said, it's like, this is kind of still alive. Like, there's still something about this that is unresolved, that there's still questions, there's like an open loop. And so, from the biological perspective, in order for the manifestation of the behavioral symptom, the physical symptom, to no longer be necessary, we have to close the loop. And sometimes that means telling the story. Why did this happen? Do I even know the whole story? Is there a way that I could perceive the story in a way that makes it less relevant to me? Is there a part of me that feels as though, oh, my life would have been different, could have been better if only ... And so if there's that open-endedness and that non-acceptance or resistance against the way that things played out, even just telling the story in a way that allows you to say, okay, well, if that is the case, what did I learn from it? How did I grow from it? How was this a benefit to me? How can I kind of do the judo move? So instead of feeling like I'm a victim of a situation that was unfortunate, of, whatever stories I've been telling, of greed, or however, whatever it was, okay, am I a victim of that story? Or can I shift the narrative where this happened for me and this grew me? And because this happened, I actually now am better. So when we can shift that and feel differently about the situation, and then deeply know this could never happen again, right? I mean, and even on that most practical level, no longer am I a helpless infant. No longer does somebody else control my finances. No longer. And when the deep psyche, when the deepest part of you really understands and really deeply gets, oh, this is no longer relevant. Program concludes, no longer relevant. And then no longer do we need that mirror to show us this part that's still kind of about what happened, or, what might have happened, or, even whatever our speculations about what could have happened in that situation. So, okay, what might that look like? And even just telling the story to yourself, telling the story to your subconscious mind, telling your story to the dog, right, can help to close that loop. And so that the biology really, it just needs the indication, not relevant anymore, right? Program can conclude.
That's fascinating. As I was listening to that, to you saying that, what feels, so it's an emotional kind of a sensation, is that is the old story of scarcity, of having access to resources now. That's where it still remains and is unresolved. My childhood, the story there used to be such a big piece in my 20s. A lot of unresolved anger, but finding my birth family, I've joined some Korean American groups on Facebook. I'm in weekly classes to learn Korean with other Korean American adoptees. And what I'm hearing, the stories, and they're all so unique. They're all so beautiful and so deep and personal. But I had such a lucky outcome, lucky version of it, to the point where I almost feel like I'm a fraud in that instance. Like, oh, I was never actually in an orphanage. I was never actually, I was an orphan more so than the ones who may have been taken from their families, who have been lost children that were just put up for adoption to be sold. So there's really a whole lot of things that show me how resourceful I was and am. But I think the piece that is still unresolved for me is how to be abundant or making money in my day-to-day life. It's my resources, the high value resources. It's one thing to get a job. It's another to create sustainable income from something that you're passionate about. And I think that is truly the piece that's unresolved, to where that's the high value, right? That's the one that I'm more, that's what'll get me to be reactionary or sensitive or whatever it is. Him showing me that sometimes it's more of a funny like a little grumble or a little whine, but it's the alarming times when he's really reacting towards something and it's involuntary. He's not making a choice. And that those moments, it's this fear of, being seen, of course, but also of the value in what I do. What if nobody else meets that value and sees that value? So I think that is the big piece that hasn't been accepted, that hasn't been told to my psyche, that hasn't understood, that's still holding on to that. The piece about Korea and going back it's a really wonderful unfolding. It's a beautiful story that I am living through, and so grateful to have this experience. So while yes, there might be tender moments and there's some sadness, it's giving me a lot of strength and a lot of community now that I feel like I'm more of an ally to the Korean American adoptee community, that I'm able to, in a couple weeks, I'm meeting with the group of people. We're trying to help because a lot of us were not naturalized. It's just a piece of paper that had to be filled out by our adult parents that when we were babies, we didn't know. And as a result, a lot of us were not citizens of a country we were adopted to by their citizens. And so there's a lot of these little loopholes and things happening that I've always shied away from: activism, taking a stand, fighting for something. And now I'm recognizing that this is a place that I can be useful and productive and bring my passion towards. So all of that is a really empowering, it feels great to be able to be useful and productive and purposeful. The part that's not resolved is me with, passion projects, things that I want to put into the world, things that are maybe more art and less concrete, less binary black and white of this is good work, this is bad work. It's that expression of self. That's what's the piece that I'm valuing highly and fearing putting out. And therefore, I'm reacting really strongly once that's threatened by no one else other than my own psyche.
Well, that precisely is the identity conflict. So, with the bioaggressive constellation, so this is that you step on this track and all of a sudden you were, sweet and in a good mood, and now you're like responding in a, defensive sort of way. So, we've got the territory anger, that's the conflict on the right side of the brain. And then the one on the left is the identity conflict. And that the way that you described the art, the abundance, kind of like your thing, like kind of making your mark, like who am I in this world? What is my gift? What is my talent? What am I, supposed to bring forth? That's the identity conflict. And so I think that is big time what is being shown. And so this high value thing, so this thing, like I want to give my gifts and I want it to be this beautiful, mutually beneficial, abundant, open door of, who I am and my creative expression. But if there's conflict there, if there's uncertainty there, if there is, a fear of putting yourself out there or just like blocks around that identity, like that totally is, and it makes sense again that from that mirror perspective, that everything can be fine one moment, but as soon as we step on that high value thing that I feel like it's being taken from me or is blocked from me or I'm not getting it or someone else is like, so okay, so what's the mirror? Who's standing between you and you truly stepping in to your self-expression and your identity and this creativity? What's the block there? Who do you want to, buy? Who do you feel? Is there a person? Is it, like you said, is it just yourself? Is it your ideas about other people, about judgment? Like what's between me and the self-expression that I can smell it, right? I can see it, but I can't get to it. There's a block.
That's
The block
exactly
is
it.
the story, which we know is kind of like obvious, but like how do you bite a story in half? That's kind of like that's what I keep hearing. And I don't know if you want to say what you do or what you're moving into your passion purpose project, Angel, as a transformational coach, catalyst coach, or but you have all these resources. We have all the resources, right? And all the fun stories. And this is where we get to like much like AniMirror, we turn it in on ourselves and say, how do I separate from the story? We're never separate from, the consciousness of the one, right? The love. How do I separate? Well, I did separate. That's why I'm having an identity conflict. And I separated. Yes, I was separated in the story of separation from a mom and Norman being separate from his mom and being adopted. But thank God, because he's here and you're his mom. And so we have that story where we can say, well, thank God that happened, or we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So how do we use separation to the highest and best? How do we separate from the story of I was 4 and this happened? And of course, it's part of your journey, which is bringing it all in and inviting it all in and facing it and looking at it and applying all the things that you do. Is this true? Did this really happen? Well, it happened in a story. Can I prove it? All the ways to resolve psychologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even through biology, through GNM. How do I resolve this? I love that. I was hearing identity and I was kind of curious. Melissa said marking, and I'm like, oh, wait, because I have this in my household. The marking, the territorial marking. Does Norman or Marvin, his alter ego, does he mark with a bark? Does he mark with urine? Do you have your own kind of kidney-ish play symptoms? Anything of that nature about trying to mark an identity, a territory, even a resource in that case?
So when we go for a walk, he marks anything vertical, standing still, but that's not in the house. And in fact, there's neighbor cats that will come through. Crows bathe in the pool. There's so many animals in the backyard that he will hide his feces out of, so that he's less, what is it? So he's subordinate to the wild nature out back. So he seems to know his place when it comes to marking and territory. And we've been here, like I said, almost a year now. He knows this is his space, but it's still that temporary feeling. So I don't know if he's committed to it. He's still a little timid to mark here. And I think it's just because of the wildlife in the area. There's coyotes and whatnot. Do you want to get down? Here he goes.
That
And
tim that
so,
tim
but
that
barking
timid
is his
to mark.
only.
Yeah. The timid, though the barking and the timid, I heard that timid to mark might even be that you're still in that middle of marking your new identity, the territory of this is what I want, this is who I am, this is what I'm embodying. And so, the
Yep.
what's so I hide my feces, I hide the
Yep.
things I'm digesting, I hide the morsels that have come
Yeah.
out
And
of.
then for me personally, I was diagnosed with IBD, constipation. I had diverticulitis, emergency room visits twice in the last, was that 2 years? I think it's been 2 years. So yeah, there's a lot of digestion issues that sparked up. Been better lately, but it's more in the form of the dogs are talking to each other, more in the form of not able to digest. Hmm.
We've hit on something with the territorial animals of talking. You get it, moms, you get it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so how about just to talk just a tiny bit about, well, there's this identity conflict, there's a territorial anger, there's a little constellation happening. Can we, should we, how do we resolve? And Dr. Homer said not necessarily and in a specific order. So Melissa, do you want to weave that in a little bit? Like when there's a constellation like we're experiencing here, what might, I know we have the basic resolutions, but in what order? And of course, just to present it like, wow, what's happening in me that is kind of both? And how might I, this might be the timid part. Like, I don't know which to do first. I don't know how, not that you necessarily have that language yet, but yeah, what's the next step for, we're flying constellations. So we might as well bring that in.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like the identity piece, because that's again the track that gets stepped on that creates the bioaggressive manic outburst. So it's like when so if it was like biting yourself or like hurting yourself, that would be more the territory anger track and the kind of the aggressive depressive. That's like self-oriented. But when it goes outward, so this thought, yeah, I need to bark, I need to defend. So if that's like the main symptom we're working is trying to get off that track, that is like, what is the resolution to this identity? Not knowing who I am, not knowing what I'm doing, or marking my place, and having a clear, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, right? And I have permission to evolve, so it doesn't have to be this and only this forever. So what for me, when I lay my head to rest at night, that allows me to say, you know what, I express myself today. Like I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm creating, I know what I'm birthing into being, right? This creative, like, because that's the thing, is when we suppress our gift, when we suppress the thing that we, feel called to put out into the world, or to teach, or to guide, or to whatever. But when we block that for, fear of rejection, fear of, failure, fear of whatever, that is, again, is this the way that I am being called forth to say, ooh, when I put that fear to bed, right? Is this fear? Is it even real? What is it built out of? So that's how I would work this aggressive growling, resource guarding. Again, like the super important thing that I really, really want, but I'm afraid that I can't have it. I'm afraid that I can't get it. I'm afraid that something's blocking me. So that's what I would work for that one. I mean, I'm very interested in your digestion stuff. I think that, for you, and as far as what's the morsel that's not coming through. So when there's constipation, there's something that's stuck. So there's a morsel, there's something that I desire, something that I want, something, that's important for my survival, that is slow in coming, right? It feels like, oh, I need to move it forward. And so when we kind of cycle between constipation and then like IBD type symptoms or diarrhea, it's like, okay, so that means something's moved through, and then something's stuck again, and then something's moved through and something's stuck again. And so we have to recognize, what's the track, right? Where do I feel like, oh, this thing, why isn't it coming through? Or what's going to allow me to fully absorb this, right? Take this in, integrate it. And, because we have to look at all of the literal and then metaphorical ways of this morsel. Like, what is it? Is it money? Is it money? Is it, success? Is it like, what's the thing that I need in order to feel satiated, nourished, right? To integrate this into my being. And we have to identify it, name it. Like, you want to name the thing talk about it, to yourself, to your subconscious mind, to get it out into the open, and then notice in the day to day, like, oh, this is an example. This is that thing, right? We want to be able to see it when it's happening and call it out so that we know this is when I'm conflicted around this, when I'm looping thoughts, when I'm like, self division or inner division against myself, where I'm saying, yes, I want that, but no, but I can't have it. Well, I want this. Oh, but this is the block, and so notice when you're having that kind of tug of war conversation, that will help bring your awareness to it, and even in the moments when this is happening, oh, what was just on my mind, right? Like when a symptom flares up, when a behavior, when barking starts happening, or growl, it's like, what was just on my mind? Could this be showing me real time in this moment something that is behind the curtain, behind the scenes of my experience that I am not actively connecting? We want to actively connect those dots.
Oh, that's so fascinating. Um, Naming the thing, I think that's definitely, I could see the value in that. And yet that is what brings me the most fear. So that's really good. And also, not to throw in another thing, but when you mentioned, I think you were saying the identity. No, I can't remember which track, but the bite. So both Norman and I have had dental issues very recently. He had two teeth. Well, one had to be pulled, and one, it was very loose. And so he lost two teeth recently, I would say within the last year. And I clench at night. And I just went to the dentist last week, and they said that I have such a bite conflict issue that I'm cracking my teeth. I mean, I'm squeezing so hard. And so that's been, I remember being about 8 or 9 after I was adopted, and I suppressed all my memories before the age of 5 or 6 from Korea. So I suppressed all my Korean identity memories, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night or the morning, and my jaw was just locked, and that fear of not being able to open my mouth. That hasn't happened too many times after, but it's this clenching, it's that gripping, it's like that holding, um unable to surrender or let go. It's a trust, it's that kind of a feeling. And at night I have to constantly remind myself to relax and let it go. And so yeah, so now it's cracking my teeth. It's happening so much. So yeah, Norman, I don't know if he bit something hard, but he's also had the same thing happen. So yeah.
Okay, fascinating. So again, so this who and yes, going back to childhood. So again, when you want to bite, but you feel like you're not able or allowed to, right? I'm not allowed to really express myself. I'm not allowed to really defend myself. It could jeopardize my, my new family. It could jeopardize, my survival. And so when you're feeling not able or not allowed, it's like a form of a self devaluation. Also can be a stuckness, like with the motor, with if there's grinding at night. And so it's like, oh, where do I feel like I can't fully express myself? And so if it's flared up now, what's going on? You mentioned living with a mother-in-law. There could be things around that. There's like, are there, do I feel fully able to express, to bite back, to defend myself? What makes me feel not allowed to? Like, how would it jeopardize me, or not able to? I'm not strong. I couldn't even do it. If I, even if I wanted to, I'm not strong enough, or I wouldn't know what to say. So again, naming it. Who might this be about? What was it about at 8 or 9? What is it about now? Like, how is this? Because, the mirror is just going to keep mirror. It's going to keep showing you. It's going to keep it as long as it's relevant to me, as long as a part of me is still buying into this lie that I'm stuck, that there's nothing I can do, that I can't defend myself, that I'm a victim. Again, it's like, it really is. It's trying to show you where you are still buying into a narrative of this happened to me. I'm small. The problem is big. The opponent is big and I'm little and there's nothing I can do. And the whole game is to make the situation small and make yourself big again, right? How do I shrink that down? How do I do the judo move and realize this happened for me, to grow me, to teach me, to deepen my wisdom, to deepen my understanding, to deepen my ability to connect with people, to teach people, to guide, whatever. It's like you're using this in some way to your benefit. And when you fully embrace all of those pieces and don't hold one part, well, I'm still a victim here and I still can't speak. It's like, as long as that part's still there, the mirror is going to keep showing you through whatever means necessary.
There's something so good also about what the words Melissa just used were you keep buying, or potentially we keep buying into, we collectively, we buy into our stories. Buying uses resources, and we're talking about money at the top of this. So if we want more energy slash money slash currency slash whatever, and we're literally spending mental energy on a story that we've identified with. Well, what would happen if we said, I'm not putting any more resources, like literally the words, I'm not going to buy this story anymore. This story is so tattered. Like it's like 10th hand by now. I don't want this. It's not even worth a penny. That it becomes, at least at my own, like I'm having some kind of like resolution. Oh, it's not even worth a penny of my thoughts. Penny for your thoughts? Now I understand what that is. No, it's not worth a penny of my thought. Thoughts become thinking. Thinking is the pattern that becomes the feeling. And then, of course, we latch on and grip on and bite down to the story and the resource. And it becomes very high value because, well, we were sold to buy the story at some point, but we get to choose now. No, this isn't my story anymore. And it's like not even like choice. It's I'm talking about resources specifically here. So I wonder, I don't know, but I wonder what would happen if we just said, no, I'm not going to put any more pennies towards this story. I'm not buying it anymore. What would happen? What will happen? Maybe, maybe he won't resource guard that value, and then it'll shift to something. Oh, maybe it's this, or the shift will happen, and it happens in an instant. Where I recently experienced something very similar of, I'm not going to buy this shit anymore. I'm not going to buy this story. And the moment I flipped it just for a moment to get the little light, just to have like a little morsel to go on with the new track, the new story, $200 rolled into my account, like out of nowhere. And it was this kind of story of, I'm resource guarding my story, and I'm identifying with it. And there's value in it. There's value in it, maybe in completion of the story. And so maybe there comes the grace and the peace of, well, for right now, it's important to me and I'm aware of it, and he's showing me, and this isn't going to get any better because it's not him, it's me, and he's showing me what I value. And of course I know, because there's a track to my childhood of what was valued at the time that was presented to me, that I became the act of, literally acting. And so you can't even help it in your name. And I don't know if anyone will actually see the name. It's Angel, Moran. And in the full name is Norman. So it is the AniMirror. We can't even get away from it if we tried. And our AniMirrors have the ability, they're there waiting for us to resolve so they can move on to the next lesson. And it's sort of like, oh shit, well, this one was really intense and I don't know if I want another one. However, it doesn't have to be the ones that are dire. It could be, well, what would it be like? I ask myself all the time to have 4 amazingly graceful, congenial, peaceful, joyful dogs that love to play with everyone all the time. And right now, that is not my mirror, because right now, that's what I'm still working on. What my own territory stuff, my own identity. And if one of the 4, I mean, they all have their unique reflections of me. And one of the 4 is literally anyone, anything moving, anything running, anything moving too fast, new people, new dogs. It's not one little single track. So it becomes anyway, for me, fun in quotes, terrifying behind the scenes, and also the juice for what presents to us here. For me to say, I'm not alone. So I'm not isolated. So one of the reasons, one of the ways the conflict begins is we're isolated, or we think we are, or it appears that we are. And in this case, part of bringing this out, and as Melissa was saying, tell the story out loud, whether it's to the mirror or out loud, just in the vicinity of coffee shop, whatever. People are listening. I know I'm not alone. I'm no longer isolated. The story doesn't have the same juice. The value isn't there as much anymore. And in this case, to bring it out loud, courageously, willingly, is to say, I don't want to do this. It wasn't real. Maybe it was. Okay, well, I don't know if it was, but I'm no longer isolated. Here we are in a pack, tackling it together. And as we've seen throughout the time we've been here, there was like, fidgeting in the beginning, and I want the morsel. And then it was, I want to bark. And then when they were barking between the two, and then everyone is just, I guess, this is what I find in my mirror is, as I calm and I realize, oh, wait a second, that isn't really true, or maybe it isn't true, even the question of it. And I start to settle into the peace, everything calms just for a moment for me to look at that and say, well, maybe that's more real than the other thing. Or I value this more than I value that. That's where I'm getting what's pulling me to focus on in this moment is, oh my God, this doesn't have to be the story anymore. And I have bought into a lot and I face similar things, with resources. Why can't I? Why? Well, I can, but I choose not to. Well, how come? And the other question I wanted to ask Angel, if you even recall, um, maybe it wasn't a choice to go into that form of getting resources as a child. Maybe it was something that was set up for you. Of course, the whole nuance of the setup and playing and acting. But really that maybe that little morsel there, the mental morsel of I I didn't, no one actually asked me. And so I'm still waiting for someone to ask me what I want. And I know in my, like, well, I have a blank canvas. I don't need anybody's permission, but something in me still is looking for that. Tell me what to do. Give me that permission. And so guess what happens? They tell me what's next, and it's gnarly. It's not my choice, I'll say, but that's still victim mentality. It is my choice to keep seeing this. So do you have any recollection of, or that feeling of, it's like on the tightrope of, wait, I did choose this, I didn't choose this, that is my story, that isn't my story, or now I'm an adult. I'm aware I'm an adult, but there's that part of me that's still hanging on to the story of, I'm waiting for someone to tell me what to do, exactly what to do. Like we try to train the dogs to tell them exactly what to do. And dachshunds are notorious for, no thanks. I don't care what you try at me. If you throw the choke collar or the this or the bark, it does not matter. I do not care. They're relentless mirrors in that way. I want my freedom. I'm sovereign. And I've noticed here, I just open up the door and they go out and they go potty and they come right back. And I'm like, how did that happen? I gave them the choice. There's no bars. They came right back because
Yeah.
there's peace. Just
Yeah.
really.
I don't feel that there was the only story that I heard, and it was something that was told to me by my adopted family. My mom said that when we left Korea, we stayed there for a year as a family in Korea before we moved to Illinois. So en route, we stopped in Hawaii because that's what you do, and then go to California to visit family. So along those stops, we were at the beach. I remember thinking that the woman was trying to drown me because she was trying to teach me how to float because it's salt water. So I remember that, but I didn't remember saying these words of, oh, I can finally relax because nobody recognizes me here. So I imagine that story. I've been hearing it. So I can't decide if that's my own memory or if that's a story that was told to me. And yet I do resonate with that feeling of, I don't really like the judgment from other people or the expectation from people who don't know me, and telling my story, which is a big takeaway from this conversation for me. Telling my story is telling my story and how to tell the story, and to tell it in many different ways. And I know that writing is a big piece for me, and some kind of visual art, whether or not that's one form or another. And so when I start to express, process, be a part of creation in that moment, the fear of, what will my mom hear? What will my mom think? I don't want her to be hurt by what I say. And that does stop me. And Melissa, you asked when I was mentioning about the biting and clenching of teeth, what was alive for me around that age, 8 or 9, when it was locked? It was definitely my adopted mom. We had a lot of conflict. And it was in my mind, Cinderella, stepmom, David and Goliath, those kind of feelings where I was the small one, trying to get past authority that I just thought was completely too controlling. And Amy, as you know from human design yesterday. We were in the gate this last week of 21, which is my purpose sphere, which is 21. And it's all about resources, and control is the shadow. So it's very much being controlled and then becoming a controlling person to try to resolve things. So I'm trying to control the narrative that people are going to have, which of course we know is not going to work. It's none of my business what they think of my work. I know all of that logically, cerebrally, but yet the little child version of me is still wanting that validation. So it's sort of a permission, but it's more of a, hey, look, did I do good? It's more of accolades, or keep going. You're good at that. Keep going. It's that kind of a feeling. So more of a celebration as opposed to permission. Um, and no, I wasn't really in love with being in front of the camera, more because of the things that you have to do, like brush your teeth for 2 hours with this disgusting toothpaste, things like that, to continually have to do takes and takes and takes when you're 2 or 3 is just not fun. But I really enjoyed working with my mom, and I enjoyed having a thing to do. I did like the purpose of going and doing something and working. But for me, so I now want to work, and Norman, just to bring it back to the AniMirror, needs a job. He needs a job all the time. I have to give him chores, tasks, things to keep him busy, right? Because idle hands. And so he right now has a job to get all the birds out of the front porch. So he's on that job right now. If either of us are stagnant, if either of us aren't expressing, aren't able to say what we want and how we want it done. So it's this definitely like, I have an opinion. It's not that I don't know which way I want to go. It is that very specific, this is the right way to do it. This is a judgment call. And then I turn that into such a weapon that then it is the thing that now I'm worried I'm going to be judged for. So I definitely see that pattern. I think that's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack, but it's all of these things to just keep buying into it and creating more of a resource to buy into it and pay attention to it and make it into such a thing that I'm investing in. And yet there's no thing because I'm not doing it. So yeah, it's fascinating.
All of the words that you used, I mean, I know intended, money related, and as you were speaking, I realized it's not actually, and I think we said this before, but it really is an attachment to the story. And then you mentioned you loved working with your mom, and so all I heard was, and then you said it, I give him a job, but what about a job with you? That's what
Mm-hmm.
you value, to be able to complete something. And of course he may not want that, but you can offer that to the mirror child that he represents. He wants to be free and sovereign, which and you identify with, and there's the part of you that is that it really did truly enjoy that part of it. And so to bridge the gap of what we value, well, right now I still value that story. And so that is what's being played out on the screen. And simultaneously, the story you also loved, or the story also playing out, which is playing out distorted at the moment because there's more value to one than the other, is wait, this is my child and I'm the mom now. And so if I can flip the script, he doesn't have to perform, but wouldn't it could be exciting, or invitation to him, hey, I'm going to be in here working for an hour. The door's open if you want to come in. And every day, or whatever, for however long, play that role of invitation and see what happens. Now I'm inviting in the other story at the same time to try to level up the stories, so that it's not even a letting go of that story that I value. That's allowed to be here. And I'm increasing value in the one that you just said, I really enjoyed that. Oh, so now it's a shifted focus. Perhaps we'll see what happens. I'm sure that we'll have a follow up with Norman.
Yeah, I
Marvin does.
actually do work with him. That's what's funny, is that when I hear him get agitated and barking at, passerbys, I will invite him, or I'll go into his little area to work with him. And I think for me, just as a normal human being having a pet, right? I'm always questioning, is this the right thing I'm doing? Should I be behaving this way with him? And so I'm one that will get down at his level, or I'll pick him up at my level. I'm the only one that does that, mostly because I have the better back because he's so low to the ground. But I do I am engaging with him more. And a lot of people will say in the family, well, I think it's because he thinks you're a sibling as opposed to like a parent figure, that I'm more like, on his equal, which is why he's trying this dominance. Everybody's got a theory. And while that may sometimes behave that way, I mean, he is telepathic for sure. So I will just think or invite him with my thought, just have that intention, and he will attune to that, or he'll say yes or no to the invitation. And so, yeah, I have definitely tried that, and it definitely works. He does love working with me, having tasks with me. But I haven't asked him to join me to do the things that I really want to do, as far as like art or creation or writing. I remove him so that I have my hermit time to process and do. So that's interesting. I'll definitely try that, because, yeah, when it's, just doing paperwork or that kind of easy, not very cerebral kind of things, I'll just work alongside of him. But yeah, that's interesting. I'll try that.
Separate yourself when you value it more. And
Hmm.
that's cute.
When I need my time. Yeah. And then does it work? No. And because it's so serious, because I make it into this high value, too much on a pedestal thing. But if I did have more play involved, which I know is a huge part of the medicine and the remedies, to invite play, that definitely would be, yeah, more expressive, and have more of that trial and error, and creativity would flow better that way. And so he is hysterical. So having him involved in that would only help me in that instance. Hmm.
It could be the next, dog artiste. I know I saw one recently that is that literally the artist, the parent, allows the dog to come in and mark territorial mark
I've
in
seen
art
that.
in there.
So
Yeah.
good.
so so it is to involve invite in what we all value together. I mean, he's you, right? So what you value, even if you think it's him valuing it, it's still us valuing it because we're seeing it. And this is the kind of shift that is such a nuance. And it's, for me, I know it's simple, it's not easy because it's right in front of me, and it's literally, as we say, hidden in plain sight. And also, very honest, sometimes I don't want to see it, but I will keep seeing it because it's me. So, oh my goodness, what a thrill with a dachshund, of course, the fierce little mighty. And I was going to reference Goliath and David. It literally feels like that. The ego is the Goliath, and David is this dog god that comes in with Norman, Marvin, Phoenix, and name them, all the dachshunds, all the dogs, all the AniMirrors that come in and say, let me help you. Let me help you. Let me help you resolve this. Because we've seen in my experiences, Melissa's experiences, others that have been with us in the live experience and the courses, full on radical resolutions that become like, whoa, I didn't even know that was possible. And you start to realize, as I know you are, Angel, aware of, we have scripted this, we've projected it out of us, and they've come home to roost and let us know what's no longer simmering. It's now boiling, and it's time to sip on this soup and digest it so we can move on to the next story and experience. So thank you so much for your willingness to present it here, to bring Norman and Marvin to the scene. I know that this is his mission, one of his missions for me, for us, to present this. And I hope, along with everyone who listens, dachshund moms, animal moms, all of the things, moms, dads, parents, guardians, fosters, all the things, you get something juicy from this. There's more than meets the eye, as we say. Any other final thoughts, Angel or Melissa, on today?
This is beautiful. I mean, the parallels, and that's the whole journey, is to see, okay, here's something that's being shown to me. What else could this be? And thank you for your willingness to make those connections and to see those things, and to, let this beautiful animal show you things that, maybe on some level you do know, but it's like, ooh, maybe this is brought to the forefront here and now for me to take that next step, to move into, marking my territory, claiming my identity, realizing that this story that I've been, maybe making bigger than myself, or still playing into something that, is feeling like a victim of something. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that any longer. Let me name it. Let me talk about it. Let me, like, how do you said writing, right? Like, you can write the, how does one who went through what I went through, how does she go from here to where she wants to be? Write the story, write the story. Like, you could literally write the story in your mind, talk the story out, and involve this wonderful little guru that you have, that's there helping you, showing you. And that's the beauty of all of this. And so thank you so much for sharing with everyone today.
Absolutely. Thank you both. And you've given me so much to think about. Even knowing that this is such a parallel, that it's not something that I question as far as its validity, I still fight it. I still will wrestle with it in the day to day. And I still have to take the time. It's like retraining a muscle. I still have to recondition or decondition to shift that perception and that perspective. And so it's wonderful to have other people remind me and reframe things for me, and have that, because what a gift. There's so many times that even other passerbys or, friends or acquaintances will see his aggression and judge him for it so harshly, and just assume like, oh, he might have to be put down. And I'm just so flabbergasted at that idea that you wouldn't use this as a teaching moment or as a reflection of yourself. And so I think as an adoptee, right, as well, too, there's always that question of, well, will I be returned? Will I go back? And so I think animals having that voice, to be able to express so freely as teachers, as the gurus, is so important. So thank you for sharing this with everyone.
Oh,
So
thank you for that last little bit. That was really good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, even the bite down, the last one, like, let's put him down, AKA let's bite that down.
Yeah,
Even
nip it in the
that is
bud, and yeah.
biology. Yeah. I mean, it's part of the biological, to who's in charge of this pack. This one's out of line. Let's put him down, as in bite him down, put him down in the pack. Well, hold on a second. And now you get the opportunity to say, that might be you if you're witnessing it. So
Yeah.
sorry to say. Norman's here to show you you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, so good.
So-
Well, this is it for now. Thank you so much for everyone here listening, watching, and where to find us. Well, we have AniMirror live courses, course live experiences, which are every other Friday, starting up again next week, and AniMirror podcast. Anywhere else, Melissa?
You've got it. We hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.